My husband's voice rang in my ear like a death knell on what should have been a hopeful morning. "I'm leaving you and I already sold the house," he said, the words punctuated by a mocking laugh that still echoes in my mind. In that split second, every memory of our shared dreams, the laughter echoing through our living room, the quiet comfort of our home built with joint sweat and sacrifice, shattered into a million pieces. I stood rooted to the spot, my heart pounding as if it wanted to break free from my chest. How could he be so callous? How could the man I trusted, who promised to share every joy and sorrow, treat me like a disposable commodity? And then, as his laughter faded into silence, I knew with a cold certainty that this was not the end. It was the spark that ignited my ultimate reckoning. I still remember the early years of our marriage, when promises were whispered in the dark and every morning held the promise of a shared future. We met in a whirlwind romance during our final year of college. His charm, his ambition, and the way he looked at me made everything seem possible. We married in a small ceremony surrounded by friends and family, and together we built a life that was both modest and full of hope. We bought a house, a place that became our sanctuary, a testament to our hard work and dreams. I took pride in every corner of our home, from the garden we nurtured together to the personalized touches that reflected our personalities. I believed that our home was a fortress built on mutual respect and trust. But slowly, imperceptibly, things began to change. The warm glances and gentle reassurances turned into terse exchanges and guarded silences. I noticed the late nights when he'd disappear without explanation and the furtive glances he'd cast at his phone when I wasn't looking. I tried to brush these off as the pressures of a demanding job and the inevitable adjustments that come with life. I trusted him, I always had, but deep down, a seed of doubt had begun to take root. That fateful morning, I was just beginning to feel the stirrings of an ordinary day, sipping coffee and scrolling through emails when his call shattered every illusion I had held dear. I had expected nothing more than a quick good morning or perhaps an update on his schedule, but instead, I heard those chilling words. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I reread the message on my phone, each word a merciless dagger. "I'm leaving you and I already sold the house." His laughter, so cruel and devoid of any remorse, replayed in my mind like a cruel soundtrack. I felt exposed, vulnerable, as if my entire future had been callously snatched away in a moment of reckless cruelty. In the immediate aftermath, I was numb. I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't even cry, just stand there paralyzed by disbelief. My thoughts raced. How could he do this? What kind of person treats a marriage like a business transaction? I scrambled to collect my scattered senses, my heart pounding as I dialed his number again, desperate for any explanation. But the line went dead and every subsequent call only returned silence. I rushed to our home, a place I had once filled with dreams and laughter, and found it eerily quiet, almost empty. Furniture had been hastily removed, and the few personal items left behind told a story of a hurried exit. The house, our home, was no longer mine. In that moment, a surge of anger overtook me, mingling with deep betrayal. I sat on the cold floor of our living room, the reality of his actions sinking in like icy water. I had worked tirelessly for years, pouring my heart and soul into building a future with him, nurturing the home that was our joint testament to hard work and love. And now he had discarded me with a single text and a mocking laugh. The betrayal was not just financial, it was emotional, personal, a violation of every promise he had made. As the shock began to subside, a fierce determination started to burn inside me. I realized that if he thought he could break me so easily, he was sorely mistaken. I would not allow his betrayal to define me or destroy the future I had dreamed of. Instead, I vowed that I would fight back, not for petty revenge but to reclaim my dignity, my home, and my life. I began by gathering every shred of evidence from our home. Bank statements, legal documents, photographs of our happy days, and even the text messages and emails we had exchanged over the years. Every piece of evidence was a reminder of the love we once shared, now tarnished by his callousness. I reached out to a trusted friend, Sarah, whose steady presence had always been my rock. Over long, tearful conversations, she urged me to see that while I was in deep pain, I still possessed an inner strength that could carry me through this dark chapter. "You built your life, your business, your home. Don't let him take that away from you," she said softly. Her words resonated with me and slowly I began to piece together a plan. I would confront this betrayal head-on, not with explosive anger that might ruin me, but with the quiet, relentless force of determination to rebuild everything he had destroyed. I scheduled a meeting with our divorce attorney, Ms. Daniels, who had a reputation for handling high-stakes cases with a blend of empathy and ruthlessness. In our first meeting, I recounted every painful detail, The text message, the empty house, the bank transactions that confirmed he had sold the property without my consent. Ms. Daniels listened intently, her eyes hardening as she reviewed the documents I had painstakingly compiled. "You have a strong case here," she assured me. "We can challenge the sale on the grounds of fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. Not only will we fight for a fair settlement, but we will also hold him accountable for the emotional distress he has caused you." Her words were a lifeline in the turbulent sea of my emotions, a promise that I was not alone in this battle. Over the next several weeks, I dove headfirst into the legal process. I spent long hours at the courthouse, meeting with Ms. Daniels, reviewing deposit slips and property records, and meticulously preparing my testimony. I felt as though I were reliving every moment of the betrayal with each piece of evidence I presented. In one particularly grueling session, I recounted the moment I received his text message, the cold, indifferent tone, the mocking laughter, and I could feel the eyes of the courtroom on me, as if every person there was bearing witness to my heartbreak. The experience was both excruciating and cathartic, a public unburdening of the weight I had carried for so long. The courtroom battles were fierce. Michael's attorney tried to paint his actions as a misguided business decision, arguing that the sale was a legitimate transaction made under duress. But our evidence was overwhelming. Witnesses testified about our shared financial responsibilities, and expert accountants demonstrated that the sale had been executed without my authorization. Each session felt like a small victory, a step closer to reclaiming what was rightfully mine. The judge, a seasoned woman with a commanding presence, made it clear that my rights as a co-owner were non-negotiable. "The facts show a blatant disregard for the marital contract and the fiduciary duties owed to both parties," she stated firmly. "I will not allow such an egregious breach of trust to stand unchallenged." Those words reverberated in my ears, bolstering my resolve. Outside the courtroom, life was a mixture of bitter loneliness and hard-won empowerment. I moved into a modest apartment, a temporary refuge while the legal process unfolded, and gradually began to rebuild the pieces of my shattered identity. I threw myself into my work, channeling the pain into creative projects and long hours at the office. Every new client, every successful presentation, was a testament to my resilience and my refusal to be defined by his cruelty. I reconnected with old friends, attended support groups for those who had experienced betrayal, and even found solace in the simple act of walking through the city, where the bustling streets reminded me that life goes on, no matter how devastating the loss. Yet, amidst all this, the ghost of my husband's betrayal continued to haunt me. I found myself replaying the moment of that fateful text message over and over, a relentless loop of hurt that threatened to erode my newfound strength. In quiet moments, I would sit by my window, staring out at the city lights, and wonder how someone I had once trusted could be so callous. I questioned every promise, every tender moment we had shared. But gradually, with the steady guidance of my therapist, Dr. Lewis, I began to understand that the betrayal was not a reflection of my worth. "You are stronger than you know," he often reminded me. "This pain, as excruciating as it is, will lead you to a place of self-discovery and resilience." His words, though simple, became a mantra that I repeated to myself during my darkest nights. As the legal process dragged on, a turning point came when a key piece of evidence emerged. An email thread between Michael and a business associate revealed that he had deliberately bypassed my consent when executing the sale. The message was blunt and unmistakable. He had prioritized his own ambitions over our shared future. When this evidence was presented in court, the tide turned decisively in my favor. The judge ruled that the sale was invalid and that I was entitled to a fair share of the assets, as well as compensation for emotional distress. The ruling was a vindication, a public acknowledgement of the injustice I had suffered. I felt a surge of relief and a newfound confidence that I could reclaim my life, piece by piece. But even as the legal victory settled in, the emotional aftermath was profound. I found myself grappling with a myriad of conflicting emotions: anger at Michael for his betrayal, sorrow for the loss of our shared dreams, and a lingering sense of emptiness where trust once resided. I began to write extensively about my experiences, filling journal after journal with raw, unfiltered reflections. The act of writing became both a catharsis and a roadmap for my healing, a way to process the pain and transform it into a force for growth. In the wake of the court ruling, I decided that I would not allow the remnants of that failed marriage to dictate my future. I invested the compensation into a new venture, a small startup that combined my passion for graphic design with innovative digital marketing strategies. This new business venture was not only a financial opportunity but also a statement of my independence, a declaration that I would build a future on my own terms, unshackled by the betrayal of the past. I poured my heart into the project, often working late into the night as I designed logos, crafted brand identities, and strategized campaigns that reflected the strength I had found in adversity. As my new business began to take shape, I reconnected with my family on a different level. I reached out to relatives who had always been supportive, slowly mending the broken ties that had been strained by Michael's selfish actions. There were still painful memories and harsh words, but over time I learned to forgive, not for his sake but to free myself from the chains of resentment that threatened to hold me back. Forgiveness, I realized, was not about forgetting the past, it was about reclaiming the power to move forward. I embraced the notion that my future was mine to define, and no one's betrayal, least of all my husband's, could ever take that away from me. One crisp spring day, nearly a year after that fateful phone call, I stood on the balcony of my modest apartment, watching the sunrise paint the sky in hues of gold and pink. I felt a quiet pride in how far I had come, from the moment of utter devastation to the triumphant reclamation of my identity and my future. The scars of betrayal were still there, faint reminders of the pain I had endured, but they no longer defined me. Instead, they served as symbols of my resilience, a testament to the fact that even the deepest wounds can heal and give way to new beginnings. I began to see my journey as a mosaic of shattered dreams and renewed hope. Every setback, every bitter word from Michael, had forced me to confront my own strength and to rebuild a life that was truly my own. I now understood that success wasn't measured solely in financial terms, but in the courage to stand up for yourself, to fight for what you deserve, and to rise again even when the odds seem insurmountable. In the months following the final court ruling, I focused on both my professional and personal growth. I attended business conferences, networked with like-minded entrepreneurs, and even started mentoring young professionals who had faced their own share of betrayal and hardship. I discovered that sharing my story not only helped others but also reinforced my own journey of healing. I published articles about resilience in the face of betrayal, and soon I began to receive messages from people who had been inspired by my strength and determination. Meanwhile, the memories of Michael, his cold text message, his laughing dismissal of our shared dreams, slowly began to fade into the background. I learned to look at those moments not as scars that defined my failures, but as lessons that propelled me toward a brighter future. The pain was real, but so was the strength that emerged from it. I no longer allowed his betrayal to dictate my worth. Instead, I used it as a stepping stone toward the person I wanted to become. There were still nights when I would lie awake, haunted by the echo of his laughter and the finality of his words, but even in those moments, I found solace in the knowledge that I had fought for my dignity and won. I had reclaimed my life, my future, and my sense of self, proving to everyone, most importantly to myself, that I was stronger than the betrayal I had endured. Today, as I sit in my sunlit office overseeing the steady growth of my new business, I reflect on the long, arduous journey that brought me here. My husband's callous declaration that he was leaving and had sold our house was meant to break me. Instead, it ignited a fire within me, a determination to stand tall, to fight for what was mine, and to build a future defined by my own strength and vision. I have transformed my pain into power, my heartbreak into a stepping stone for success. This is my story, a story of betrayal, loss, and ultimately redemption. I rose from the ashes of a failed marriage and shattered dreams, not to seek vengeance and bitterness, but to reclaim my life with unwavering determination. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of despair has contributed to the resilient, empowered woman I am today. I now know that my worth is not measured by the actions of someone who chose to discard our shared dreams, but by the strength I discovered when I refused to let that betrayal define me. As I prepare to close this chapter and step confidently into the future, I carry with me the lessons of resilience, the beauty of self-discovery, and the unyielding belief that even the deepest wounds can heal. My journey has not been easy, and the scars of betrayal may never fully vanish, but they now serve as powerful reminders that I am capable of rising above any adversity. I have reclaimed my life, and in doing so, I have proven that true strength lies in the courage to rebuild, to redefine your future, and to never let anyone steal your dreams.